First off, before I start this rebuild video, I want to send out a big thank you to, first of all, Matek for standing behind their product and replacing the flight controller. I also want to give a big thank you to Haley Nation for supporting their customers. Just to say a little bit how I went about getting a warranty replacement on this flight controller. I messaged Haley Nation and said, hey, I think I have the y'all Twitch issue that everyone's posting about on this flight controller. So I sent, they actually quickly forwarded me over to Matek support. Within probably 30 minutes to an hour, I got a reply back from Matek after my first email to Haley Nation. I did a few emails. He asked me to test a few things. I told him I've already soft mounted and I put 4 capacitors on the flight controller. That's what y'all asked me to do. And I asked them, are you going to replace it? Or are you going to stand behind your product? I just thought I was going to lose the money on it, to be quite honest with you. After I sent that, we talked a couple times, and him asking me to do this and that, not annoyingly or anything like that. They sent me back to Haley Nation and said send him another one. So they did. Basically, I got a warranty replacement within about 3 days after talking to Matek. So thank you guys out there for supporting this hobby and everything you do for this hobby. So thanks a lot, Haley Nation and Matek. I will be leaving a link in the description for Haley Nation, and thanks guys. I appreciate everything y'all do. Welcome back to my channel. So as my last post here, that my last video, I was still having some problems out of the Matek all-in-one on my Martian over here. I did contact Haley Nation, is where I bought it from. They forwarded me to Matek. We did some conversations, talked about the capacitors and soft mounting and whatnot. And they forward back to Haley Nation to replace my flight controller. So Matek did replace my flight controller. The only issue that I have here is the Martian was 409 grams. I just can't bring myself to rebuild it at that weight. So I'm actually going to not use the move everything over to the Space One frame and build it without a pod, but with the actual carbon top and everything. I'm also going to not necessarily test my theory, but I do think because the board is turned 270, that is causing some of the yaw twitching too, some of the unstable. I just feel like my other quad wasn't turned. So anyways, I want the battery coming out the back anyways on this quad, so I am going to turn the flight controller to have the battery outputs in the back. So let's hope this turns out. I'm also going to use Betaflight 3.1.7 on this. I'm not going to put the 3.2 because some people were saying that 3.2 may be causing it. I am going to leave the capacitors on it because I just don't want to redo my ESCs. So hopefully the wires are long enough and I can just pull them motors and ESCs off the arms and put them over here on with the new flight controller. The new it's the same board. So hopefully. Also, I do have this other 3D print that I've made because I don't like trying to put the battery strap through the bottom and hit the board and everything else. So I've made this little 3D printed mount here that brings the flight controller up just high enough to where the strap can go under it, and I still use the here, let's show you right here. If you can see, it's right up under there, and it allows me to slide my battery strap straight through. But this time I used to be doing this on my other Space One frame. I did it in PLA, which is a hard plastic. So I decided to give it a little bit more oscillation, and I am going to put, and I made this out of TPU to go under that. Also, I will be using these for soft mounting the motor, which are also made out of TPU. Well, wish me luck. Hopefully, I cannot rebuild this at 409 grams. That's just, I can tell the big difference in the weight. Also, another reason why I'm rebuilding this into the Space One frame is because the whole reason why I wanted to build this frame was to have some HD footage for the RunCam 2. But because I've got this protector on the front of it, whereas it used to not, it does now. It hangs over to where I see the front of this while I'm flying, and I just can't stand to have anything in my FPV footage. So that's another reason why I'm going to go to this. I am going to make this reversible to where I can do top mounted or bottom mounted just to see how it feels. And we'll be making a 3D printed mount for my RunCam on the top of it. Hopefully I don't have any problems out of this flight controller. We shall see. I got the motors and ESCs installed, and just wanted to show off the solder. Let's see if we can get a focus here. There is some flux kind of around, but never had a problem with that. I usually always, I always check for continuity on everything before I power it up. Also, the back, I left the capacitors on the ESCs. I was planning on leaving on all four, but with that standoff right there, I did not have room, so I couldn't put the capacitors on there. So I'm hoping that with these two, that I don't have any problem. Probably could remove them and not have any problem, but since they were already on, I left them on because I had room in that area. So I did test out the power, flight controller once I got the XT60 on. I did check all the voltages. I have been in beta flight and did all my settings before I installed the XT60. The gyro seems to be working fine. All my voltage outs for my receiver and my camera VTX all seem right from the board. So everything's looking good so far. I just hated that I couldn't leave them because I'd already had them installed. The capacitors on the front too, but I just didn't have rooms with the standoffs where they're at. So, alright, so got my stack all together. I've done all my testing. I've done the motor direction, the motor order. I've tested my smart audio. I have tested my fail-safe. I have tested my signal, tested my FPV, set up my OSD. I do turn out that my 3D mount back here for my VTX needs to go up a little bit higher, so I'm going to 3D print that. taping up the ESCs right now. On my stack, I have it, I have it a little tight. I mean, I guess. I have them the flexible standoffs plus a little mount there, soft mounted motors. I'm not a big fan of wire ties on my quad because I've had them rub capacitors and rub heat shrink and everything else through vibration. So I've put some sticky tape on the receiver. And then I've reinforced by hitting a thing of black tape around. I know some will probably frown at that because of the noise issue here, but I don't believe I'm going to have any noise issue out of here. The reason why is because I have the zero yaw, and I think that's part of the reason why it's more noise acceptable, because it is also trying to fight noise along with turning the board. So I think that's part of the issue. Did do motor test all of them together, high throttle, up and down. The quad stayed flat on the table and didn't turn or anything like that. So I know it's different when you get a prop load on it. Yeah, we will see. I'm excited. I'm excited for this to be lighter. 409 was a lot for that Alien, so it should be a lot lighter, hopefully. So I had to put them standoffs in there. They were almost a little bit of a pain to get around. So it's a little tight fit there. Hopefully I don't have no problems with my wires rubbing on that. I might throw some tape between it or something. I did go with a longer power wire here because I want to do some top mounted. I am going to tune it for bottom mounted because that's where the majority of the time is going to be, because I'd like to get some HD footage with this. So I'm going to tune it with that, and yeah, I'm excited. I think this is going to resolve the issue. There's nothing different about this other than it's got the same motor, same ESC, same receiver, same VTX. The only thing different, it's got a different frame, which does have an issue to do with the noise. So I don't know if that's going to help or make it worse. Got my 3D mounts printed out. I had to end up going to this antenna because the Triumph is a little long. Tape this up here. I like this because it's got a little bit of play in it. Hopefully don't break antenna. I've got my camera mount. I was going to go with the side plates, but I like the TPU because it holds the camera better with just the screws. Camera up there. Got my two capacitors back there. As far as back here, I mean, I could run a capacitor right there. I've got two just hanging out the back, I guess. I've got wire ties right here for stress relief for the XT60. Look at all that wasted room up under there. Be nice if I had a flat SD card reader on these things. 371, 372, no pod. $388 with the pod. Got her all tuned up. She's flying amazing. Just to kind of go over, I did have a few issues. I do have two of these capacitors, the smaller capacitors, on the two back ESCs. So on my maiden hover, I didn't have any twitching out like I did the other one. And it may be because I have them two capacitors on there. I'm not 100% sure about it. But I did still have the oscillation or the twitch in turns when I'm yawing and going full speed, or giving it pumping the throttle through turns. I still had the exact same yaw twitch or twitch like I did in the in my first build of this. Now, the big question here is, I was able to fix it. It was like night and day. I put on the capacitor on the battery lead back here that come with the Matek flight controller, and it went away. So I have like 20 of these small capacitors. So they were supposed to be Panasonic low ECR capacitors. I guess they're not doing their job. I have no idea. Maybe the capacitor that comes with the board's better. I have no idea. My recommendation would be, if you have any issue, is to put on the one that come with the flight controller first to see if that fixes it. I probably should have did that on my other build. Very first thing, I didn't. I guess I'm a kind of an extremist, and I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it on all 4 ESCs, because I was hearing that was supposed to be better. So it obviously didn't work on the other quad. Second thing, on this build, I do have 3.1.7. I have enabled PT1, and I also were able to remove the first notch filter. Was going to remove the second notch filter, but it was flying so good that I decided to not fight it anymore, and just to get a good flying quad. So I did. Now, when I go to 3.2, I will, because of the dynamic notch filtering, but not right now. This is the 3D mount that I created for my run cam. The whole bottom piece I created myself, and then I added up one that I already have made on the top. You know, I wish I had a GoPro, because it's a lot smaller and a lot smaller form factor, but I don't have a GoPro, so I had to go with what I got. Alright, with the HD cam, the only thing that's missing on this quad to fly is the battery. So let's see what she weighs. 461 without the battery. It's going to be heavy. Still not as heavy as the Martian was, so we're probably going to save about 50 grams. So hope she flies good. Also, what I did is since I made the longer lead so I could do a top mounted battery, maybe eventually find a way to keep it from getting into the props. I did have to pull it back here because I was a little worried that during a crash the wires would go up and hit the props, and I don't really care to fry all my components because I cut my battery leads. So going with the bottom mounted right now, because this is just something now this also leads the question: does the Matek fly better than other flight controllers that have the it's MSU or MU 6000 that supposedly does not does not accept noise as much as this gyro does. That's the big question here. Is it worth putting all these capacitors on the Matek in order to keep the noise down? You know, the one that I have the pod on, I just do not have the room for capacitors. I don't have any capacitors on it right now. So, you know, I'm afraid to change the, upgrade the flight controller to 3.2 or retune or change the motors or anything. I'm afraid to do anything to it because it may start accepting noise. I do not have any. I only have PT1 enabled on that quad, no filters taken off. I will say this, I don't know how it flies with the run cam. We'll be having that up pretty soon. We'll be doing that later today, and then with the HD footage. But this thing flew awesome. 8K, PT1, and first notch filter removed. This quad flies magnificent. I was very surprised. Now it's not as top speed as the other, because it has the my other quad, because it has the non-S version 2600 kV on it. I can definitely tell a speed difference, but it does fly good. So we'll get some HD footage here a little later and put it on the video, and I'll have this uploaded. So I hope this has been helpful in some way, and enjoy the flight footage.